Okay, so let's just dive right in and start creating some wavetables. Creating wavetables from samples is very easy. It's just drag and drop. So I've got here a really dubstep synth hit, and we're just going to drag it right onto the oscillator section. There's a bunch of different settings. Import constant frame size pitch average is the one that I use 90% of the time. So we'll drop it on there, and now it's turned that sample into a wavetable. If we hit this pencil tool, it pulls up the wavetable editor menu, and we can start editing that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to truncate it, because if you look through this wavetable, we've got a bunch of stuff, and then there's a bunch of just pretty much silence at the end. So we're going to add the silence by clicking on that wavetable, hitting Shift, clicking to the end, and hitting 254. Then we go to Add Remove and Remove Multi-Selection. All of these, there's a lot of stuff in these menus, but it's all pretty self-explanatory, and there's a lot you don't really need to use. So as we go through these, I'll kind of show you the 5 or 6 that are really useful. So if we scroll through this while holding it down, we've got 67 of these. Now, if we look at this, we can see that it didn't do a great job of interpolating these all along the waveform. So we're going to hit Process, X-Fade Edges 16 Samples, and that kind of rounds off the edges and gives you a less buzzy sound. Your wavetables can go up to 256, and we have 67. So to make this smooth, we are going to morph them. So we are going to shift-click on the whole thing, go to Morph, Spectral Zero Fun Phase, and now we have 256, and it kind of gets a little smoother. And there you go, my first wavetable. Very simple. I'm going to put the sample in the course assets so you can grab it, throw it in Serum, and try this out yourself. So as I said, it didn't do the greatest job of interpolating it, because what Serum's doing is it's automatically kind of sussing out the pitch, and we know that this is F right off the bat. It's actually F0, and it's saying it's D sharp 3, so it's kind of just pulling it arbitrarily, cutting it up into little slices and just saying, okay, that's D3, and then now it will play at C, D, E, F, whatever. So the easiest way to do it, if you know the exact or the rough fundamental frequency of your sample, is to go right into this menu, this dialog box right here. And so for instance, this is F0, type in F0, and now it knows this is F0. And it can kind of just extrapolate from there. This is how long to make the sample size. So now we'll drop it in again. And you can hear this is way closer to the actual sound we sampled. So this is a better interpolation of this. So now we're going to go through the same process all over again. Going to highlight this last bit of silence, shift-click, add remove, remove multi-selection. So now we take this. You can still see that the waveforms don't have exact zero crossings, so we're going to highlight it again. X-Fade edges to 16 samples, then highlight this and morph Spectral Zero Fun. And I'm just using that because I personally like Spectral Zero Fun Phase. It sees to be the one that works the most for me, but when you're doing this, mess around for a while and try all of these. They all do slightly different things. Let's close out of here for a second, and there you go, a nice smooth. And you can hear that it's not a one-to-one. This isn't a perfect reproduction of the sample. It's just basing it and creating like a morphable sound set based on that. And if you drop an octave. So you're getting the idea that if you drop a dubstep womp in here, you'll get something that kind of works as dubstep womp. If you drop a vocal sample in here, let's try, this one is, I believe, around C3, or let's try female vox, and we'll try that at pitch average. And there we go. That actually got it pretty close. C3 at 16 cents. And that starts to sound like vocals. We won't go through the whole process of chopping it up, but you can do that. Truncate it, morph it. You can also, with this, you can see that it gets a little quieter over here. So if you highlight everything and hit process normalize, each gain separately, it'll make all of the different frames roughly the same volume. So a little more esoteric stuff.
Yeah, I love your mama. Yeah, I
You take a
love your
vocal
mama.
sample and you can drop it in the FFT, 256, 215, and 1024, et cetera. That's all. It'll just take it at a discrete sample size. So that's cool if you want to just do kind of like a little like cheap vocal effect where I can just drop this vocal in here. We'll have to go in and take the silence out of the beginning. We can go through and put an LFO on this and make it, say, half a bar. Turn the volume up a little bit so you can hear it. And you get a kind of cool little robot effect. Other little Easter eggs in here. If you go into this dialog box where you can adjust import sample selection, and you just use a pair of quotes, and let's say, I don't know, platypus, you get kind of a speak and spell effect. Which is pretty fun. Put your producer name in there. You can make your own little like drop that has that name. You can also dump pictures in here. So let's take a picture of 1980s Budweiser mascot and icon Spuds MacKenzie, and you drop them right in here, and it makes a wavetable of Spuds MacKenzie, or the picture of. So the horizontal axis is the x-axis, and how bright or the luminance of it controls how high the waveform is. So if you look on the photo, the white section right here will be the highest part of the waveform. You get kind of a cool, grainy wave, like not a bad wavetable out of Spuds MacKenzie. And you can go and spectral it and cut out some of the stuff that's plain white. And you can totally just mess around with photos. I mean, if you're good with Photoshop, try doing different gradients, dumping them in there. It's super fun. The last thing you can do with the wavetable oscillator is you can do really basic additive synthesis. So the idea of additive synthesis is that if you have an infinite amount of sine waves, you can eventually, using the overtone series and different lengths of the sine waves, pretty much synthesize any noise. That's all theory. In practice, it's really hard to do. There's not a lot of additive synthesizers, and they're really pain to do because someone's got to go and either like build or program like 50 sine wave oscillators, and then controlling all that with envelopes stuff gets kind of crazy. But you can do a really rudimentary form of additive synthesis right here. So each one of these is a sine wave, and that's the amplitude. So if we go right here, there we go. Oh, I forgot to turn the wavetable zip position off. There we go. So there you go, sine wave. And then if you follow up it, like for instance, if you look at these highlighted bars right here, that's the overtone series. So if you follow the overtone series, you can easily get something like an organ sound. Yeah, and so really simple additive organ. And you can just play with it. If you just start drawing weird stuff, you can kind of get interesting waveforms. And then you can make radically different ones and then spectral morph between them to build your own wavetables. Also, if you go in here and you look at basic shapes, if you go up here and cycle through and hit this button, it'll show you what it would be to make it using this additive synthesis method. So it's kind of a good way to learn like the way the different waveforms work with the overtones. So that's a general overview of the wavetable editor. We've discussed how to create wavetables, some of the Easter eggs and esoteric methods of synthesis you can do in the wavetable editor. Next, we're going to look at oscillator A and B and the general controls.